Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining with me today is indeed my great co-host, Gary. Keith, of course, not here this week. We're flipping back and forth every single week, it seems like. I already see Gary repping his polo. Didn't really want to mention it, but the Ohio State Buckeyes, they do take down the number 8 seed. They take down the number 7 seed in Notre Dame. Gary, I know you know a lot more college football than I do. So talk to me about what your thoughts were about watching that game and everything.
No, I mean, I loved it. Definitely the second half was a little scary at times. I just hate the way that we play when we're up because we get very comfortable. And it's more so the fact we try to coast to a win. Sometimes it happens, but, in the national championship, I don't really expect us to play that way. So kind of kept me on the edge of my seat, I guess. But once that, I don't know if you saw it, but that last play to Jeremiah Smith, that game-sealing catch, I knew it was over from there. And, it's what we expect from this team. That's why we built the roster that we did, brought the guys back from last year. And to be honest, we should have done it to every team. But at the end of the day, we're the national champions, so can't be upset.
What a story for Will Howard, that quarterback there. I mean, he played backup every single season just about. And finally, his 5th season, he takes home the national championship. He's obviously declaring for the draft, I'm guessing. Is he going to make it anywhere?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people actually have him as, like, a top 5 quarterback. Like, a lot of team scouts have him as, like, getting into that 4 or 5 range for quarterbacks. I can't see how not, because honestly, like, he's had the great roster around him, but he hasn't made too many boneheaded decisions that like you would have expected him to make coming over from Kansas State. A lot of people said that he physically can't win a national championship. He can't be the quarterback of a national championship team. He proved them wrong. He's played great for 95% of the season. So I think he's going to make it, and I think he has some pretty solid NFL quarterback tendencies. If he goes to the right spot, I think he can be a pretty solid quarterback.
What's your thoughts on him maybe going to the Browns, like, say, in the second round or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be that early. I don't know how many
day two pick.
I don't know how many teams value him that high or what they value him at all. But I have heard some chatter that, like, a lot of people, or just like Browns fans as a whole, love the thought of a homer pick. And I mean, I guess I don't hate it, but as the offseason is going on for the Browns, I'm feeling that we're more and more leaning on taking Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. So
don't take Travis Hunter. Don't do that to me.
That's what they want to do right now. So
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's dive into some news and notes from around the league. And we'll start first. Obviously, Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams, they were eliminated this past weekend. Matthew Stafford, he plans to come back after the loss, says he's still got some football left in him. Do you see this team having still a chance to make to the Super Bowl with him as quarterback?
I don't know. I feel like in the NFL, like today, there definitely, always are tiers. And I feel like the Rams are in a tier where they're a team that at any time can make a Super Bowl run out of what you may think is near nothing. But I think, Stafford's getting older. The team's getting older. Kupp, I don't know what they're going to do with him. And he isn't even really a game wrecker anymore. So, they're kind of in a tough situation. I think with Stafford around, they'll always be a playoff team or a playoff fringe team. Mm-hmm. But I can't see them making it past that second round that they just got eliminated at. So we'll definitely have to see. I honestly am excited for the future of the Rams. I want to see what they're going to do for the future because they – as much as I say that they are getting older, they still have some really, really young studs on that team, like Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I'm excited and also intrigued, like you mentioned, because of the fact, and we'll jump into the Cooper Kupp situation. He mentioned he's got a lot of football left, But when asked if it will be with the Rams, he says that that's out of my control. So the question is the uncertainty. Does Cooper Cup leave? Obviously, Puka Nakua has filled in great when needed as the wide receiver one. And I wouldn't be surprised if they let Cooper Cup just go and do whatever he wants to sign with a different team. But now you still need to bring in another wide receiver. You need to bring up maybe a younger talent. Now the question is, Matthew Stafford, obviously his age is up there. Can he produce with those younger talents? And can he take that next step forward and going back to the Super Bowl for one last ride? And that is the biggest question, I think. And I agree with you completely. And again, second round exits, it's kind of what we're seeing with the Rams. And you look at their record this year, it wasn't even that great. That they almost didn't even make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, they ended up winning the division, I believe, at 10-7. So I think it was just always like the Rams have kind of a shaky start.
Mm-hmm.
Even their Super Bowl winning team, I don't think they started off
No.
great. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see what the future of the Rams holds. I think that they could take a wide receiver with their first pick. I'm pretty sure they're going to be in like the mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
So could be like a Mecca Ibuka range.
That would be
Just
nice.
one of those top wide receivers. Because this draft class is absolutely loaded. So we'll see what they do.
You could honestly wait until the second round and still get a stud.
Yeah,
Second,
yeah,
second,
agreed.
third.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously we already mentioned about the Buckeyes. You got any more news from around the league? There wasn't really that much news this past week.
No, I mean it's tough because less teams are playing every week, so there's not as much stuff happening. Um, it's the playoffs. It's getting towards the end of the year, so
Yeah. I'll talk sports in the chat. Kenny Galladay made Stafford made Kenny Galladay look good. Uh, anyways, let's go into some of the injuries. Only two injuries that really need to be talked about here. Zay Flowers, he was out in the wild card round and also the divisional round. Now the issue is he missed the complete playoffs for the Baltimore Ravens. If he did not face injuries, Gary, do you think that these Ravens had a chance to really beat the Bills and maybe even beat the Chiefs this week?
it's tough to say. I mean, as a Zay Flowers fan, they don't really use him that much, so it's
Yeah.
like, would he have done that much more? Probably, but I'm not going to live on hypotheticals. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would have pushed his team over the edge. And even if they beat the Bills, I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs. I don't think the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, I love Zay Flowers, but they just don't use him right. So
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season because Bateman really looks good this playoffs.
yeah,
Let's go into the last injury, and this one's a bigger injury because it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, he suffered that knee injury, went down awkwardly. Thought he looked fine to me, but it really hurt his mobility. He wasn't really able to scramble out of the pocket, rush for a lot of yards after that injury, and obviously he's taking it every day at a time, a little at a time this week. Obviously he's going to play. There's no doubt he's not going to play unless they want a Kenny Pickett disastrous game against Washington. So to me, for you, Gary, I mean, do you think that this mobility is going to hurt this team, or are they just going to have to rely on Saquon Barkley even more than what he's already been doing with the team?
I don't think it's going to bother him or the team that much. I feel like last game, we even after the injury, we saw him actually play less quarterback wise. Like he was doing a lot more handing off to Saquon. I guess you could
Yeah,
say, how does he not do that with Saquon Barkley in the backfield? But I think he's fine. He's got a week to get himself straightened out. He's gonna play. Like they're not just gonna
yeah,
throw Kenny Pickett out there. I don't think it's gonna be too much of an issue. If it does, Commanders definitely have a shot. I think they already have a shot because that offense looks unstoppable. So I think this is going to be a great game. I don't think it's going to hinder him that much, but you already know Saquon Barkley's going to get his. So
do you see him going for another 200 yards? This guy's just
could
elite.
he could? I mean, I think I'm pretty sure the Commanders' run defense is bad. I could be wrong. Um, I could be very wrong. But if they are, then yeah, he'll probably go for 200 yards. So
This guy, the question is, should he be higher up in the MVP race?
yeah, I mean, I don't. I
It's always
hate
the
the fact.
quarterbacks. The quarterbacks always get the damn love.
I hate the fact that it's a quarterback award, and I hate the narrative around all sports that the MVP award needs to be like a team success award. I hate that.
Mhm.
But if you're talking about team success and you're really factoring that in, I don't know how Saquon Barkley isn't up there because, to be quite frankly honest with you, without him, they are not this. Like, obviously, they're not the same team, but like they could barely be making the playoffs, in my personal opinion. Like,
Yeah,
they've leaned on him that much this year. It's crazy.
I completely agree with you. I mean, this guy has looked elite this year, and boy, did the Giants hurt to see him thrive in their division rival, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's all the injuries I have. Let's go into the head coaching carousel. We're going to be mentioning every single week until all the positions are filled. Of course, currently the teams still looking for head coaches are the Jets, the Jaguars, the Saints, the Raiders, and Dallas. Obviously, we know already New England. They signed Mike Vrabel to a multi-year deal. Now, just moments ago, yesterday, head coach Ben Johnson. He's got the new face there. He's the new face of the franchise there in Chicago, and I love it. I love this. Obviously, there was concerns whether or not he wanted to go to the division rival Bears and have to face Detroit all the time and face that tough division. But I just want to say, Ben Johnson, when he was part of that Detroit offense for those 3 years, they were top five in scoring all 3 of those years. They finished fifth in 2022 and in 2023, and they finished first this past season with 33.2 points per game offensively. And not only that, they led the NFL in scoring this season for the first time since 1954, 28.2 points per game in the offseason, in the offense from 2022 to 2024 on average. That is the most in the NFL in a 3-year span. And the last time the Bears won a Super Bowl, the coach was hired on January 20th. What's your thoughts on this?
Okay. No, I think it's a great signing. Obviously, if you're a Bears fan, you're ecstatic. He could easily flip this team into the 10 to 11 win team that people might have seen them already being. Once they got guys like, Keenan Allen and drafted Caleb Williams. Um, they have talent for sure. So I'm going to keep an eye on the Bears because it's just a great hiring. It's a great fit. I would like to also see, I'm not saying Ben Johnson was just gifted an insane offense, of course not, but we know how good the Lions are, um, with their coaching staff or not. So it'll be nice to see how Ben Johnson can really um, work with an offense not as loaded as the Lions. We'll see what he can do. I think he's going to be fine. I think the Bears are going to be a pretty good team. I was high on them last year or this upcoming year, and they were pretty bad. So that kind of got thrown out the window. But yeah, we'll see what they have in store for this season. I think they could be good again.
See, I think we all love Ben Johnson going to the Bears because he is such an offensive schemed coach, offensive minded coach, going to that offensive team. Now, here's my only concern. And I don't really have much concerns for this in this whole entire thing, but my only concern is the fans and everyone are going to have such high expectations for Ben Johnson that if he does not produce in his first season, could he be like Gerard Mayo and get let go after the first year?
I don't think he would, but I think that he would definitely be on the hot seat.
Hmm.
I feel like, there are always those those coaches that are on the hot seat like season long. I feel like, but are given an extra shot, and they're not a one and done guy, but maybe they get 2 years. And I'm always relating to my own teams, of course, and I feel like that's how Stefanski is judged. He's always on
Hmm.
the hot seat, but the reason why he's been brought back year after year is he's got 2 Coach of the Year awards. He's brought us to the playoffs twice, so you know there are guys in this league that are always going to be judged very sharply because of what they're given. Um, and yeah, if Ben Johnson doesn't bring this team to where they probably should be in his first 2 years, he definitely could be out.
Yeah, and that's the only concern. And I hope it's not the case. I hope it's not the case because I think Ben Johnson has potential to really have a good career in Chicago. Famous last words, of course. Um, let's go into the Jets. They plan to interview Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn for the head coaching spot. Obviously, we heard from Dan Campbell that he expects not only Ben Johnson but also Aaron Glenn to go. I think this could be a really good fit for Aaron Glenn because the Jets do have a great defense, or at least if the team can play the way that they should play with Sauce Gardner and everything. Aaron Glenn could thrive there with a defensive minded coach there in New York. And if Aaron Rodgers can come back for another season, keep DeAndre Hopkins, keep Garrett Wilson, the offense is there. Now, can Aaron Rodgers produce?
Yeah, I think he's got that job locked up. Personally, I think that's his job. And I think it's going to be a great hire. You mentioned it. He's a defensive minded coach, and the Jets defense is nasty. However, they were not what we thought they were going to be this year. So
Hmm.
bring in Aaron Glenn, get him shaped up, and they could very well return to that top three defense that we saw out of them just 2 seasons ago.
Obviously, we know the Bills. They are the only team in the division to make the playoffs. Do you have any concerns on the Jets making the playoffs with the Dolphins or the Patriots?
No, um, to be quite frankly honest with you, that this year especially was kind of weak. I feel like if we have
Yeah.
another year like this year, like the Jets could sneak in with just pretty minimal improvements.
I mean, I expected those three teams to all make the playoffs, except for the Patriots. All three teams to make the playoffs in that division. It only ended up being the Bills coming out of it.
I wasn't so high on the Dolphins, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, everybody thought the Jets would honestly possibly be division winners.
Mm-hmm.
At least making the playoffs because they are so talented on both offense and defense. Didn't work out, but maybe get some new faces in there and change some things around. Maybe they could be back in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be nice to see them turn around. I mean, Mike McDaniel is a great coach, I think personally.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I haven't heard anything really on them. It's just basically for the Jaguars, they're getting second interviews with three different coaches. There's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, the Vegas Raiders defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, and former New York Jets head coach, Robert Saleh. So Saleh going there would be an intriguing fit for Jacksonville. Don't know how good of a fit it is, but I think that would be a good name to get. Just can he produce? I don't know.
I like Liam Cohen the most. I mean, out of those three options, I think it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Um, he turned that Buccaneers offense right around, especially in the run game, because I remember just like 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure they were a bottom five rushing team. And now they're a top five rushing team. Um, you can say what you want about Baker kind of writing his own story, but if you're going to tell me that offensive coordinator Liam Cohen didn't help him with that, you're out of your mind. So definitely provided some insight into Baker's career resurgence. So maybe you could see that with Trevor Lawrence as well. I know me and you are both not T-Law guys whatsoever, but if he has any chance at getting back to what Jacksonville thinks he should be, an offensive-minded guy in that coaching staff is exactly what he needs.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think Liam Cohen, the fact that that team, especially Baker, who we know how Baker was, he didn't thrive anywhere else. Liam Cohen, I think personally, also maybe you as well, really helped Baker's turnaround story.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're still on the hunt for their head coach. The Saints, they're currently having an in-person interview with Mike McCarthy this week. I heard that they might get delayed due to some snow in New Orleans.
Okay.
They're also planning on interviewing Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka and Dolphins defense coordinator Anthony Weaver. Um, Again, this Saints team is. I'd say if I'm looking for a head coach spot, I think the Saints probably be one of the worst because of the fact that it's gonna be tough to turn that team around because of the fact the salary cap is horrendous. You have such an old defense too. Your offense is getting up there in age. Really, the only people you got is I can't even say Alvin Kamara because he's getting up there in age. Maybe Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. That's really it.
Yeah, that is really it. I feel I feel bad for Saints fans because this is going to be a dark period for them. I feel they're always dead last in cap because they're just negative by so much, and it's going to be that way for a little bit still. They you mentioned it. Their entire team's getting older. Yeah, you can't even name Kamara anymore because he's what, like 30.
Mhm.
Um, who knows how long he's going to be around for. And yeah, I agree. The only positives to that team probably Olave and Shaheed. Positives in terms of age wise, at least. Um, yeah, that they're just in such a bad spot. I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they're gonna do in the offseason because that's gonna be the biggest question mark on what's gonna happen. Raiders don't really have much. I think it was more they were looking at Deion Sanders still. I don't know if anything happened with Deion Sanders yet. I don't know if you heard anything about Deion.
I haven't heard anything. I remember he said both about Vegas and Dallas that
Hmm.
the offers are intriguing. So we'll see if that leads to anything.
I think honestly the biggest question mark is do they get Shador Sanders? I think that's the only way they're going to determine it. Which makes me think: do the Raiders or the Cowboys wait to hire a head coach until after the draft to see who gets Sanders?
Yeah, we'll see because I also saw something that not only Vegas but Dallas is also interested in possibly trading up to draft Shadur,
I'm so
um,
hyped for that.
which is
That's so
crazy
crazy.
because I mean obviously Dallas just signed Dak, so we'll see
Jerry
what
Jones
happens
says
there.
he's fine to get rid of that cap. He's fine
Yeah,
taking on that
I
big
I
cap.
did I did see that, which is crazy. But yeah, we'll see. It's definitely gonna be wild. Obviously my Browns are sitting at 2. So if
Would you like Dak?
anybody, well, no, not at all. But if anybody were to want um Shador Sanders, they'd probably talk to us. Obviously, in terms of trading that pick. So I'd definitely be intrigued to see what we could get for it. But I have heard a lot more. Sorry, Patriots fans, that we're probably gonna draft Hunter. Um, there's a lot of people thinking that I saw it was like oh, what was it? They said it could be like a LeBron esque uh, turnaround for the team. That's what a lot of people in the front office think. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know, but they also think that Shadur doesn't want to play in Cleveland, which is something that's been brought up for the past couple months. So we'll see. Honestly, I think the draft is going to be very, very huge this year because there's so much talent and there's so many things that can happen. There's so many teams that need this draft. So
I'll ask you about your take about Quinn Ewers. Obviously, he says he's going to the draft. Do you think he should be a top five quarterback, like being drafted?
man, that's a
Because
tough question.
I've been seeing like mocks like him going late first, early second, and like I thought he did good. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, I think he was a good quarterback in my opinion. And I think if he's debating whether or not he's going to be a top five draft pick or getting 8 million in NIL deals to transfer, I feel like you have to guarantee to know that you're being drafted somewhere in the top five, top 10.
Yeah, he'll probably get drafted as a top 5 quarterback. He should have been so much better at Texas. He was such a highly recruited guy, and he just didn't really play to that full capability, I guess. A lot of people thought. But I think he played good enough to be a top 5 quarterback this year. You know, you look at guys like Jackson Dart. him, Will Howard,
Mm.
Dylan Gabriel. Like I feel like they're all guys that will be fringe, that bottom of the top 5 level. In To me, they're all going to get drafted around the same area. So whether that's end of the first, middle of the second, that area, I'm fine with it. It all just depends where he goes because I think he could be a great systematic quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be intriguing to see where, because it also seems like if he gets drafted top 5 or whatnot, obviously the Dallas Cowboys, they're sitting at number 12. Can they trade up and give up as much capital that they want, much capital that they want to go up that high to get Shador Sanders? And if they do, congratulations to them because they're going to have Shador and probably Deion Sanders. But if they can't, then they're going to be stuck with Dak. And I think at that point, you've already burned bridges with Dak.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to see, like, as a Browns fan, what the Cowboys would be offering for that 2 pick because I feel like Jerry Jones in that entire front office just
they suck at trading.
Is so happy with getting fleeced every single time. They gave us Amari Cooper for like a 5th round pick or 6th round pick, whatever it was. I don't even remember who it was that they traded for on the Panthers. The wide receiver was like
Jonathan Mingo.
Jonathan Mingo. Yeah, have you heard of his name since he got traded? No.
No. And he's been inactive every single week.
Yeah, and they gave up what, a 3rd rounder or something like that?
Yeah, 3rd, 4th.
I think it was. Yeah, like I don't know what these idiots are doing in the front office, but I would definitely love to hear their offer. If you don't like it, just go with Hunter or Abdul Carter. But yeah, I mean the Cowboys are ran by some morons, so it would definitely be funny to see what they're willing to give up for a top 3 pick.
The number 12 overall pick, the 2026 first round pick, the 2027 second round pick, and Dak Prescott.
For the Browns?
Yes. For the number 2.
So they're 12, a 1st rounder next year, a 2nd rounder next year, and Dak?
And Dak.
I'd probably say yes, to be honest with you. It's the contract that scares me, especially because I don't know if we could even take it on. But
what if they pay most of the contract?
Oh, then yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah, I would do that.
Okay. That was my concern. That was my question. Lastly, for the Cowboys, is they are planning on having an in-house interview with their offensive coordinator. I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but Brian Schottenheimer, which I thought it was going to be harder, but it seems pretty easy to say. It just kind of flows. Schottenheimer was an offense coordinator. He's been on the team since 2022. I think he came in as an analyst for the team. I think this is more just an in-house interview because their top guy is still Deion Sanders. So.
Yeah, I mean, like we were just talking about it, the Cowboys are known to make some stupid decisions. So we'll see who they hire as a coach. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of Brian Schottenheimer in my life. So do I think he'd be a good hire? Can't even tell you yes or no. So we'll see what they do.
I'm intrigued to see what in the world is going to happen because will the Cowboys just keep sucking?
Yeah.
It's a big question. Speaking of big questions, it's time for the biggest question of them all, the conference championship predictions. Who's going to make it to the Super Bowl? That is the question. There it is. The overlook of the conference championship round. The AFC Championship, of course, includes one of the biggest rivalries in the AFC, the Bills versus the Chiefs, a clash of the AFC Titans. Can the Bills end the Chiefs' reign to try and reach the title game, the Super Bowl game? And are they going to stop them from having a possible chance of a three-peat? Can the Bills make it to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1994? Chiefs, last time they were there, last year. They beat the 49ers 25-22. Bills, last time they were there in 1994, they lost to the Washington Commanders. Not only that, they had a 4-year skid of losing in the Super Bowl. And of course, on the NFC, it's the Commanders versus the Eagles, an NFC East battle. Will the Eagles fly high once again, Or will the Commanders break through for their first Super Bowl appearance since 1992? And will we see Jaden Daniels, the rookie sensation, be the first ever rookie quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl in history?
Some good questions. We're gonna get into our opinions here in a second, but yeah, I'm actually surprised. Is that really true that no other rookie quarterback has ever made it to a Super Bowl?
I mean, you know how hard that is. That's got to be so.
No, for
hard.
sure. But I mean, I guess the NFL hasn't been around that much, but that definitely is a really tough feat. But he has not looked like a rookie. I'll tell you that much.
He has not looked like a rookie. Before we get into our predictions of the AFC and NFC Championship, let's kind of go with a divisional round recap. And obviously, let's first talk about Washington taking down the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, of course, time zones are different again. I'm back, not able to watch these games, but watching the highlights, I mean, that was insane watching the highlights. I, of course, had the Detroit Lions all the way. I was riding them from the beginning of the season. I was riding them till the end, and unfortunately, their end was the divisional round. But Washington, like you mentioned, looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Lions, of course. My Super Bowl prediction was Chiefs over Lions. But Washington, I said it earlier on this year after that Hail Mary play that they beat the Bears on. They're a team that I'm just going to be rooting for, and that's a play that Hail Mary. That is a play that you look back on towards the end of the season and say, if this team were to win it all, that's an example of why. It's just a team of destiny. Right now, they look like it. They're cooking with gas offensively. I mean, I said it earlier, that offense looks unstoppable. And it's crazy to say that, Jaden Daniels has been playing out of his mind. But besides Terry McLaurin, like, their offense isn't even that, like, great. Like, it really isn't on paper. They're just playing levels above everybody else right now. It's crazy to say that they played levels above the Lions, but they did. That defense looks stellar too. At least the pass defense. They picked Goff off like 3 times and had a pick 6. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if the Eagles play like they did against the Rams, obviously the conditions were a factor. If they play the way they did against the Rams, they will lose by 2 scores.
Ooh, interesting take right there. Going on to the Detroit side of things, I mean, it's really come down to the rest, having the bye week, and the injuries. It just turned into an unfortunate end to their season. And obviously now you're going to lose the coordinators, both offensively and defensively. And now the concern is, who do you bring in as the OC and DC? And can you bring back that elite team? And I hope that they can. But of course, Ben Johnson was a crucial factor for that offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to have that talent because they are young, which is crazy to think. Like, this team's going to be around for a while. Obviously, Goff is older, but, you have the young talent in the offensive line. Penei Sewell is a stud. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's in his 3rd year. Jahmyr Gibbs in his 2nd. They extended David Montgomery. Jameson Williams is young. On the defensive side, they got Brian Branch, Terrion Arnold, who was bad this year, but I think he's going to come to fruition. They got Aiden Hutchinson, who they haven't had all year. Jack Campbell. They got a bunch of guys like who are in their 2nd, 3rd year at most. That team's going to be around for a while. How good they can be is in question, but I'll be rooting for them. Jahmyr Gibbs is my favorite player in the NFL, so I like them.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, you can't go wrong with that. Let's go into the other game in the NFC. The Rams obviously was not enough to hold Saquon Barkley. Barkley really ended their season, both game 1 in the regular season and game 2 in the divisional round. And for the Philadelphia side, I mean, Barkley is just staying elite against those Rams. Barkley alone has combined for over 450 rushing yards against the Rams in 2 games. 2 games.
Oh, I remember because I had the Rams as the last leg in one of my parlays, the first time that they played. And I was so upset because every single time they pulled it like to within 1 score or they finally started to get some momentum, there goes Barkley for a 70-yard touchdown. Like, it was absolutely insane. I think he had 2 touchdowns of like 65 plus that game.
Yep.
He's playing like he's the best running back in the league, and I was so scared of it this year. You know, I knew him and Derrick Henry both, once they get into that RPO offense with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts,
Yeah,
it is just going to be devastation for the rest of the league. And look at what we're getting.
couldn't agree with you more. Not only that, you mentioned the 2 touchdowns of 65 plus. He actually has 4 touchdowns against those Rams in those 2 games. All 4 of them were 60-plus yard rushing touchdowns.
It's crazy. Absolutely insane.
Crazy thing. Let's go to the AFC side. Houston, they led just about everything in the stats category, but Kansas City and the referees hold up once again. I mean, that's all I got for the notes on the 2. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching that Chiefs-Texans game, and I forgot exactly what flag it was, but there was a really it was like they called on Will Anderson that roughing the passer, like where he barely hit Mahomes, and then Mahomes just like gets up immediately looking for a flag. I'm like, oh man, it's such a bad look. But yeah, I mean,
what about the time that they got flagged when it wasn't even Mahomes that got hit on the slide? It was the 2 defenders.
Yep.
Going into each other.
Yeah, they hit each other, and that was bad. That was really bad too. You know, you're the Bills. You've done this before, or you've been here before. It's the Chiefs and the refs. You know that. Like, it's crazy to say that you're already playing at it. You're already playing at a handicap, but that's how you have to beat them. Which I feel so bad. I just feel so bad. But you know, it's. I also don't want to not respect Mahomes like as a player, because it's crazy to think what he's done, you know, coming so young and already take over the league. But yeah, it's so tough for the Bills. It's so tough for the rest of the league. And that's why I have the Chiefs three-peating. It's just inevitable. As much as we all hate it, it's inevitable.
Not 1, not 2, but let me just think of the 3rd time that Mahomes won the flag when he was running out of bounds and he flopped.
Yep. I do remember that. That was awful. I mean, that time I think he knew he flopped because he ended up like running immediately to the line of scrimmage after that. So I think he knew that he messed up there. But yeah, no, it's getting bad.
It is. Let's go on to what a great game Buffalo and Baltimore was. Buffalo, they managed to stop the run game. That was the biggest question mark, was if Buffalo was able to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry did have a good game, but it just wasn't enough to beat the Bills. And for Baltimore, the run game wasn't there. Flowers also wasn't there, which also could have played a little bit of a crucial role there. Not only that, unfortunately, Mark Andrews had that late quarter fumble and could not catch that 2-point conversion, which is unfortunate because Andrews did have a great season. Andrews does have had a great career, but unfortunately, that's how people are going to remember him as.
Yeah, it sucks that it sucks that it's going to be that way because, you know, he's been one of the better tight ends in the league for a few years now. But yeah, I want to mention something. Derrick Henry, I said that if the Bills are able to stop Derrick Henry, they will win this game with ease. Now, it wasn't with ease, but that's because in the second half, what do immediately? Derrick Henry, like on the first drive of the third quarter, like 45, 50 yards, something like that. I think at halftime he had 23. So, yeah. And then they were cruising in the first half. Like I said, that's why. If they were able to stop the run, which they have not been able to do all year, their run defense has been abysmal. They will win this game comfortably. And I didn't think that was going to happen. I picked the Ravens. I was rooting for the Bills, but I picked the Ravens because I didn't think that was going to happen. And Derrick Henry got going in the second half, and that's why they made it a game. It's crazy to say that the game does not lie in the hands of Lamar Jackson, but it really doesn't. Like, that's just how good of a running team that they are. So yeah. But Bills get the win. I was happy. So yeah,
I was happy. It was such a close game. Watching the highlights on that game, I was just like looking, like I had so many different emotions watching the highlights because I'm like, oh no, these Ravens are gonna win. All of a sudden, Andrews fumbles. I was like, all right, these Bills are gonna win. I was like, oh wait, now they're gonna tie the game. Like, it was just insane back and forth matchup towards the end of the game.
It was, and I don't. like you can obviously Ravens fans are going to protect Lamar as much as they can. They're going to say that Andrews cost them the game. You can say that if you want. I'm not a big believer in one play costing teams games. He had two critical. Lamar had two critical turnovers in the first half, and for them to be in that game at the end, um, that's kudos to Derrick Henry getting going, and that's in the run game. That's kudos to the defense keeping them in it in the second half because the first half, Lamar Jackson did not look great at all.
I have a comment, not from YouTube or Facebook or anything. I have a comment from my phone saying, Gary, the Chiefs will not three-peat.
Really? Okay.
That's what I've been told.
Well, I disagree. I don't want to see it happen. I would love to see the Commanders or the Bills win. Even the Eagles, because I wanted either them or the Packers in the Super Bowl. So I'm totally fine with any of the other three teams winning. But I'm telling you, man,
it's not the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's inevitable. It's the same thing we thought last year. Like, they don't look as good as they have been years prior, but they still find a way to win games. They can put up points with the best of them, or they can squeak out wins with the best of them. It's probably going to happen. Like I said, as much as we all hate it, we just have to, unfortunately, face the inevitable.
The sub-comment on that was Eagles all the way. Fly high.
Oh, okay.
Fly high.
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm also fine with them winning the Super Bowl, so I'm not at all rooting against them. But, yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, speaking of what's going to happen, we're going to find out what's going to happen with our predictions here. We got the AFC Championship, Bills at the Chiefs. This game is on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. This is game number 2 of the doubleheader between these two championship games. A little breakdown of the history of these two teams. The Bills, they are 0-3 in the playoffs against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are 0-4 in the regular season against the Bills. And this is dating back to the conference championship game in 2020. In 2020, the Chiefs won 38-24 to make it to the Super Bowl. Regular season, the Bills won 38-20. Divisional round in 21, the Chiefs won in overtime. Unfortunate, won 42-36. Regular season 22 and 23, the Bills won 24-20, 2017. Last year in the divisional round, the Chiefs won 27-24 by a field goal. And this year in the regular season, the Bills won 30-21. Now, of course, Keith is not here, so I'm going to give the prediction from Keith, and he's taking the Chiefs and the referees, 26-23.
Yeah, you put it down at the bottom. Bills are 0-3 in the playoffs. Chiefs 0-4 in the regular season. It's going to stay that way, I'm afraid. I got the Chiefs 27-24. Going to be a close one. Both teams look great. Or I wouldn't even say the Chiefs look great. But, you know, they're just, like I said, they're going to etch out a win. 27-24, I have it. Good game, as always, with these two teams. But I think the Chiefs are going to win.
All three of us have a field goal to decide it. Now, do I take the Chiefs to fly high? Well, I called up an expert, and I asked an expert, hey, what do you think? They decided to go with the same score that I was going to go with. I'm taking the Bills, 34-31. Fly high, not for the Eagles, but for the Bills. Please, Buffalo. Please, Buffalo. Please, I'm begging you. It is you versus everybody else. And everybody is rooting for the Bills. Only Kansas City is rooting for the Chiefs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to be rooting for the Bills, but Arrowhead's a tough place to play. You know, you're already at a disadvantage by the pinstripes. So, pinstripes. But like I said, I'll be rooting for the Bills. Could definitely see them winning because they're a great team. Josh Allen's a stud. So we'll see. Like I said, it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, it very much was. It will be. Obviously, want to mention the records for this playoffs. I currently hold a record of an 8-2 record. Keith and Gary both 7-3. So obviously, this could be a game that changes things for the record books.
For sure.
Let's go on to the NFC Championship game. Obviously, the Commanders and the Eagles. 7-game winning streak for the Commanders. Their last loss was in November. That's when they had a 3-game skid with Dallas, Philly, and Pittsburgh. Dallas being the most recent loss. Washington faced the Philadelphia twice. One was in Philly. They lost to Philly. And then when they were at home, Washington was able to win by 3. Now the question is, can the rookie QB, like I mentioned, make it to the Super Bowl for the first time? Again, Washington hasn't been to the Super Bowl since 1992 when they beat the Bills. My question to you, Gary, can Washington win it in Philly?
They can. Do I think they do? Probably not. Again, I have a field goal being the margin of victory here. I got the Eagles 33-30. That offense is still going to be fine. That offense is still going to play great. If I'm being honest, I think Jaden Daniels is going to make one mistake that we haven't seen him make in a while. I think that's going to be the difference here. The Eagles have, the offense, defense, and the experience. They've been here before. Can't say the same about this Commanders team, and I'm not the biggest believer on experience, but I think it's going to be such a tough game. Like I said, the offense is going to be great still, but I really do think Jaden Daniels is going to make one turnover or one stupid play. It's going to be the difference maker. It's going to be the same script as the Bills-Chiefs. I'm going to be rooting for the Commanders, but I personally have the Eagles winning.
It makes sense. 33-30 for you. Keith also has a 3-point margin on this. Eagles 30-27. I bounced back and forth with this game. This game is such a tough game to go against the Eagles.
Yeah.
It's such a tough game. Again, called in that expert. The expert stated I should take the Eagles 28-21. I'm instead going to have a 1992 Super Bowl rematch. The Commanders, they win it 31-30. That is my prediction. Give rookie Jaden Daniels the greatest season ever in rookie history by a quarterback. I mean, this guy has played lights out. I wasn't a Jaden Daniels complete believer. I thought he was good. Didn't think he was this good. He is going to beat these Eagles. Fly high, birds. Fly down, birds. You're done. It's done. It's over. This is where your season comes to an end.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It's the same thing with the Bills-Chiefs. I think both the teams are going to be so good. I could see it. Do I think it'll happen? No. But I'll be rooting for it. The Commanders like I said, since they had that miraculous play, I said they're going to be a team that I'm rooting for. And also, once they face the Buccaneers, I said, whoever wins this game, I'm rooting for in the NFC. Was the Commanders, so I'm rooting for them. I'm excited. I'm so excited because we finally have 2 great games because I feel like a majority of these playoff games have been duds. Yeah. But these 2 right here, I'm very excited for.
What if we just see like a 10-7 and like a 6-3 games? I mean, it doesn't look like it would happen with these 4 teams, but
it can't possibly happen with these teams. It can't possibly.
It can't, right? It can't.
It can't.
It has to be over 20 plus each team scoring.
To be honest with you, I feel like if we were to see a game like that, my personal opinion, it would be Bills-Chiefs, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I think, you talk about the rivalry that's going on, and I think both of those teams that game is a grittier game than Commanders-Eagles.
What is this? This is who America is rooting for on Sunday?
Is that Wyoming? Is that what that says?
I think so.
For Josh
this
Allen.
Is a tweet by Doug Kleeman. This is who. This is wrong. This should be flipped. The other way. Yeah. Should be flipped. I'm actually surprised that neither you or Keith took the Bills or the Commanders because I know you two were big on Jaden Daniels, especially Keith. He was really big on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, and I thought he was going to take them. And to see that I'm the guy, the lone wolf of both games, I think it was just shocking to me.
Well, the thing with me is whoever I root for loses, so I'm just going to keep on riding that high and say, you know what, whoever I root for, they're unfortunately going to have to face reality and lose. So I have it being Chiefs-Eagles, Super Bowl, whatever, like 3 years ago, rematch, 4 years ago, whatever it was.
2022.
2022, yeah, so 3 years ago. I think it's going to be a great game if it ends up being that way. So we'll see.
Very much so. Let's get into the fantasy playoff draft to end off this show. Of course, looking at the stats here. Obviously, Keith isn't here, so we had to draft before the show. But um, going on to what happened last week, let's go into last week. It looked really great. I had to draft a lot of the big studs in order for me to come back. I had a brutal wild card round, managed to come back, won the week. And not only that, you look at this week, our overalls are within about 10 apiece.
Yeah.
I'm still in last place, 187, but right behind 3 points behind you with 190. And Keith, who's finished second place back to back weeks, he's actually leading 196.
Yeah, it's a tight race for sure. I think I had Brian Robinson as my bench guy last week. Man, I wish he was my running back or one of my flex plays because he went off. So I'm doing it this week. I have him in there as my running back, and I'm hoping he does the exact same thing. But if you're looking at my wide receivers and you are disgusted, don't worry, I am as well.
Alamid Zacchaeus, Curtis Samuel, and not only that, you drafted 2 kickers. Obviously, we mentioned that the kickers can be used as a flex, and you decided to go with a kicker in Tyler Bass, which could hurt you next week.
Well, let's think about it. Amari Cooper, I mean, has he even had a catch in the past 3 weeks? The same thing can be said with Keon Coleman. Curtis Samuel is the only other wide receiver that I feel has gotten action as of recent that I could have taken. 2 games ago, he had 3 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown, I think, against the Broncos. So that's the reason why I went with him, because I feel out of all these options, he's the only one that has done something in the past 2 weeks. And, I think they're going to give me a better shot of scoring 10-plus points than, say, guys like Jamison Crowder or Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely agree and see. I think the biggest thing that you need is Goddard, Robinson, and Hurts to really pop off.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I did that stack, because I'm, kind of just hoping that Hurts and Goddard, hook up for a touchdown or 2.
Yeah. I'll talk about my team a little bit. Jaden Daniels, obviously, he's the only. I was the only person to be able to draft him because Gary took him one of the 2 weeks in the wild card divisional, and then Keith took him the other week. So I was the only one with him. Now, of course, I did pick the Commanders to make it to the Super Bowl, but I did also have Hurts last week. So no matter what, I will have either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, hopefully, depending on who wins that game. Maybe Josh Allen.
That's exactly how I'm feeling.
Yeah, literally. So it's going to be intriguing to see what's going to happen next week. And of course, James Cook, I needed to pick a running back. I wanted to go with a stud running back, even if James Cook makes it. Freddie Davis also isn't a bad pick for next week. Xavier Worthy, again, I took Worthy, De'Ami Brown, and A.J. Brown as my 3 wide receivers. Again, running backs are thin, especially when it comes to next week or the Super Bowl week. It's going to be very, very thin. It's going to be very, very hard to get a stud running back. And then Travis Kelce, he was my number 1 overall pick in this draft for me. And I think that was the greatest pick because Gary wanted to draft him and couldn't.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys we were talking about before this podcast started. There are a lot of guys that I was thinking of drafting. Literally every single guy I wanted to draft got picked before me, which happens all the time. So I'm not going to use it as an excuse whatsoever, but I'm thinking about it. The biggest thing here is one of us is going to be without a quarterback next week.
And that is the biggest thing. That is going to be the biggest question mark for next week. Who will get the quarterback? Keith, I think Keith has a really stud team. I mean, Josh Allen, Terry McLaurin. The team looks great. Devonta Smith, if he can pop off.
Doesn't look bad. Yeah. No, it does. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins needs to do something. The reason why I didn't pick him was because he had 1 target last week. He didn't even catch it.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know if he's going to get involved in that offense. He probably will now that it's a bigger game, but, I wasn't really too high on him. But he could, go into prime D-Hop again with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. So,
yeah, it's going to be a great week. It's going to be really shake things up for the Super Bowl draft for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's all we got. That's it. That's the end of the show. Again, if you haven't done so already, go to Underdog Fantasy. Go download that app. Go use that code SportsTimeHQ. I have it saying that it's going to match your first deposit up to $100, but Underdog Fantasy, they want to be generous. Use that code. They're going to match your deposit up to $1,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
So go on to Underdog Fantasy, go use that code SportsTimeHQ, and they are going to match your first deposit up to $1,000. And of course, if you're still looking for that trophy, that ring, or that belt for your former fantasy leagues and the championships from those teams, or if you're doing some squares and you want to give someone a trophy, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Once again, we're here every single week on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We're back next week. Again, same time, same place. You got it on YouTube and on Instagram Live, and of course on Facebook as well. And of course, if you can't catch us live, you can go catch us on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, excuse me. Again, Keith wasn't here this week. He should be back next week. I was joined by my great co-host, Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GDPicks. And of course, you can go follow our co-host, Keith, at SwampDonkey_90. I'm your host, Fernando, and you can follow us all over social media at SportsTimeHQ. And we will see you all next week.